guys here to our A&R panel. I am Sid, I'm the Vice President of Istandard Producers. And this is Vakseen, Mr. Davis. And basically what we're going to do is kind of give you guys an overview of what you should be looking out for and different methods and ways to approach someone as such as Vakseen. Because I think the goal for you guys is to get some placements. You know, that's what we're here for, right? Make some money.
Yeah.
Everybody.
Yeah.
Make some money, right? So, Vakseen, former Slip and Slide A&R and overall independent A&R, working with a lot of different labels. You've worked on a lot of projects, Plies, and a lot of real dope stuff, man. Tell me a little bit about yourself.
I mean, like he said, I started in the business of Slip and Slide Records. Started as an intern, and just grind my way up. Within a month of interning, I was an A&R, and then I was a product manager as well as an A&R. So I was handling the marketing for all of Plies projects. I was part of the A&R and marketing staff for Ross's albums, Trina, Plies, Straight Daddy, Jagged Edge. So I mean, that's where I got my start in the game. Left Slip and Slide 2011, moved out here and just, about taking things to that next level. And like I said, now I consult for a few different labels and publishers, and I'm blessed enough to work for myself. So, we're discussing meetings, A&R meetings, and it's an interesting position because I'm an A&R, but I also manage as well. So everything that I encounter, or everything that you're going to encounter, I encounter as well. I'm sitting in A&R meetings weekly, and the same frustration you'll feel, same stuff I feel, period. It's just kind of part of the business. So, that's just a little bit of background as far as musically, as far as, what I've done. I mean, my producers, we've produced from everybody from T.I. to Wiz Khalifa to, we have Flo Rida's next single, we have Pitbull's next single as well. So, we're just working, taking advantage of any and every possibility, any and every opportunity possible, and just after the win, creating great music and long-term relationships. That's the focus of this business, if you haven't learned already. Long-term relationships and incredible music, period.
So let's piggyback off the incredible music portion. Obviously, you guys started out, I want to be a producer. So there's your growth or your development as a producer. At what point do you feel that as a producer, it's time to start looking towards the business angle, towards trying to get the meetings, and at what point do you feel like they should be like, okay, I'm polished enough to go out?
I think that point is when the people tell you it's that point. When you get enough consistent feedback that your music's crazy, then don't judge just off of your opinion. Don't judge just off of your homie's opinion. Because most people keep yes men, whether they want to or not. Most people have yes men in their circle. And even furthermore, if you can get professional feedback on your music, I recommend that. And it's out there. I myself, I do consultations daily with producers, artists, songwriters, to where you can sit down with me and I'm gonna give you the real deal, 100%, hands down, whether you should be shopping your music or not, or whether you need to go back to the drawing board. So get as much feedback, get as much real feedback as possible, before you make that decision of now it's time to shop my music. Because the reality is you have one chance for a first impression, and the last thing you want to do is get an open door to a Def Jam A&R, and then you play them something whack, and that door's closed. It's probably closed forever. Probably. So, I mean, these are the kind of things that happen consistently. When you want to serve somebody a cake that's not fully cooked, might be a little doughy in the middle. You can't do that. You can't. You got to make sure your product is right before you start to get it out there and start to get placements and build relationships based on your product.
Exactly. And you have to learn the balance, because the networking portion is uber important. But sometimes it's just good to be there, to meet the people, to get familiar, to get that opportunity before you serve the cake, you know. So definitely things like this and making those connections are just as important, but I feel like it's really, really important that you do serve the cake when it's ready to be served, you know. It does you justice.
Absolutely. And I wouldn't say you couldn't build a relationship, but let's say you meet me on the street, your music's not quite ready. Just build some rapport. You know what I'm saying? Like, just hold back on pulling the trigger. Hold back until it's right, till you know, like, oh, okay, now I can come to him with this. There's plenty of people that I know we've just kind of gone back and forth, just bullshitting around, and then it comes down to, you know, maybe months down the line, maybe a year later, that they actually send me some music or actually try to do some business. You gotta, you know, you have to be very strategic with how you move in this business. That's everything in this business is about strategy. This is chess all day, this whole music business.
So what do you feel is proper protocol for introducing yourself and kind of getting that that rapport or starting to build it? Because I noticed that a lot of people, when they go out on their networking adventure, sometimes they don't know exactly how to approach someone like yourself, or like, you know, like a fellow producer who's known or an artist. What do you suggest? How do they approach Vakseen?
I mean, I like to think I'm a different kind of person. You know what I'm saying? I'm open to meeting as many as people as possible. That's how I am. But a lot of A&Rs are real standoffish. You know, you can't necessarily just approach them. The best thing I can say is be the best you. Be personable. You know what I'm saying? Respect people's time. Respect them. Period. You know, you got to keep in mind while you're trying to build these relationships. Relationships are two-way streets. So obviously, you know how that person can benefit you. How can you benefit them? You know, you got to do your research on people before you meet them. If you know this A&R is going to be here, do your research on them. Maybe you follow them on Twitter and they just had a baby. Hey, congrats on that baby. You know what I'm saying? Just small stuff like that. Like, I'm a visual artist as well. So when somebody comes to me and is like, yo, I checked out your paintings. Yo, this is crazy. On some real genuine type vibe, I appreciate that, because it says, you know, you're trying to build a relationship. You're not just trying to hit it and quit it. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Period.
Right, because, you know, there's a thirst factor as well. We can tell, like, you know, when you approach somebody on some cool, genuine vibe, or if you're just like, hey, I got this, I'm the hottest guy ever, listen to this right now, you know, you kind of create this thing for yourself, and it's usually a letdown. Especially when you pump it up like, yo, this is dope. You know how many times a day he probably hears, yo, this is the hottest beat ever. How many times does that pop up in your email? Yo, this is the hottest beat ever.
And it's never that.
It's never that.
And the funny thing is, you set the bar so much higher for yourself when you say stuff like that. I even tell my own team, like, I know you're excited. Don't send that. Don't say that. Just send the music. The music, I'm a firm believer, the music always speaks for itself. Period. You don't need to hype it up. You don't need to, you know, put your salesman pitch on. None of that is necessary. Just be genuine, you know what I'm saying? Think about how you meet people on a day-to-day basis outside of music. You don't want somebody coming up to you pitching the sales, you know what I'm saying? Just be natural. What's going on, you know what I'm saying? Just regular conversation, you know what I'm saying? And then ultimately lead into what you're trying to do and how you can benefit that person, not how they can benefit you. It's obvious that an A&R, you know, can get you placements or sign you or whatever the case may be. How can you benefit the A&R? How can you benefit whoever you're walking up to trying to build a relationship with?
So there are, you know, the game's changed a little bit over, I'd say, the last 5 to 8 years. And a producer could find out the who's and what's about a project and different things. They used to have the who's looking list and things like that. How would a producer who wants to work with certain artists find out, you know, what they're working on, what they want, what they need?
You know, I'm a firm believer in attacking every angle possible. So, you know, somebody could tell you, well, hit up the record label, contact their A&R, contact their manager. I mean, the reality is you want to attack every angle possible. So I'm going to hit up A&R, I'm going to hit up the manager, I'm going to hit up, maybe they have an in-house producer, maybe they have an in-house writers. You know, most people have these teams now, and you absolutely want to get as much insight on these projects as possible, period. Because the funny thing is, you know, most labels, they don't even know the direction for a project. I've sat in meetings so many times where they're like, yes, this is what we're looking for. And then you hear a single drop or you hear an album drop that's, like, hold up, this is completely different. It's like, this is stereotypical to what everybody's doing. So it's just, you know, you got to get as much info as possible, period, on the projects.
Yeah, I think the key is, you know, your musical side and what you're doing, that's very important. But the preparation and the homework on the other side, whether it's you or whether you have a business partner, somebody, a manager, whatever the case may be, that side is so important. Knowing what you're up against, knowing who you're up against, knowing who you need to know, knowing who you need to talk to, like doing homework, Instagram, you know, Twitter, just finding out as much about these people as you can, you know, figure out who's around, who matters. Because most of the time, the people that really matter, the people that really influence these artists, you never know. You know, if you saw this guy walking down the street, you know, he's not on TV, but he makes moves, you know what I'm saying? And generally, you have to do your homework or be put on, you know, and know what's going on. So preparation is key. I mean, borderline stalker, you know what I'm saying, without the scary part.
Yeah, I don't know about stalker, but you definitely want to be on point, and I'll put you on game a little bit further. Like, most of these placements don't even happen through the A&Rs, you know, that it just doesn't. You got to get closer. You got to get much closer to the management, the in-house producers, the in-house writers. That's how you know, ultimately, ideal situation, getting in with the artist to create. Like, that's how these placements happen. When you come to an A&R, you got to understand, we're looking for singles. It's so stereotypical when you reach out to an A&R and just, what are you looking for? I'm looking for hits. It's cliche. I mean, I hear it all the time, but it's so true. Like, that's the nature of what our job is, whether it's we work for a label or we consult for a company or whatever the case may be. We have to bring these amazing records that ultimately will get an album release, that will ultimately lead to sales. This is a business. You always have to keep that in mind. This is a business. So it's about singles when you're attacking the A&R. And that's something that a lot of creatives don't understand. They don't get it. You know what I'm saying? You just come with just anything to the table, or come with just tracks to the table. You know, no hooks on your music, which is standard these days. So, you know, there's a lot of things that definitely, you know, you have to do diligence and be on top of your business, be on top of your craft, period.
How many of you guys work with writers? Like you said, it's pretty much standard. You know, nowadays.
It is standard, hands down.
It's hooks at the minimum. Full songs if it's pop and, you know, R&B and things like that. Yep. So definitely make sure that you got that on point.
And those, you know, not to cut you off, but those of you that didn't raise your hand, trust me, you need to literally, every single track you produce, you need to be creating concepts and records for these, because it's about you presenting visions as a producer. Like, that's your job, to bring vision to this, to bring a project to life. If you're not doing that, you're a beat maker. There's nothing wrong with that. You could be a beat maker. You just probably won't have long of a career. You know what I'm saying? Like, producers have careers. They have careers.
And they're definitely going to take the full vision over the beat. You know, it's quicker.
Yeah.
You already told me where to go with it.
I can tell you literally only 3 opportunities right now. 3 artists that I know that are looking for tracks only. And even them, you know, you have a better odds of bringing a smash record to them. But that's 3 out of damn near everybody that's working in the business. You know what I'm saying? You can't shop just tracks unless you're actually in the studio. And then you can play just some tracks and build. And obviously you have a different kind of relationship if you can even make that happen, period. So we're not on that level. You know what I'm saying? You got to do what you have to do to get into the door, period. And references, records, working with writers consistently, everything you do, like, that's a must. If you can get an in-house writer, if you could find a dope writer and they write to everything you do, that's ideal. Make them a part of your team. Sign them to you. Like that's essential. That's essential because the production is the easy part. Every record is relying on writers. Writers make these placements happen. Period.
And as you guys saw yesterday, if you were in the showcase, those guys who played tracks, it was like, okay, that's cool. I see where you're going. But when the songs came, or you know, the hooks and everything, everybody was like, whoa. And that's it. It's just that much more impressive. It's that much more ready to go. So let's talk location. You guys, when you came in, I asked most of you guys where you were from. Where do these guys need to be at in their stage as far as getting out and trying to find out what's going on in the business? Where should they go?
I mean, here in LA, some everywhere. Everywhere. I mean, there's so much going on here in LA. That's the great thing about LA. There's endless opportunity, period. If you were some other city, it's a little different. You know, I moved here from Miami, which is a great city to be in business-wise, but even, like, Miami's not even close to LA, you know, period. You have to be out and about networking. All these live music venues that are here in town, you need to be there because there's potential clients. There's potential people that need production. There's writers there that you can build with. There's artists there that you can build with. Anywhere where there's going to be any of those, that's where you need to be, period. There's going to, you know, whether it's music conferences, whether it's Istandard events, that's where you need to be. Because this is, you know, you're the future. You're working on creating your future and changing the future of music. You need to be around anybody that can help assist you with that. Writers, artists, managers, execs, all of the above.
Like-minded individuals definitely stay around creative types. But like you said, LA is a I mean, this is it, you know, on that tip. And for all you guys that are here, you're lucky. But for those of us, you know, who had to travel from other places, you know, this is a trip you need to take every now and then. You know, if you could every quarter, you know, just to kind of be out here and create those opportunities. If you're home and you're working, you get your stuff together, and you take the trip, you know, see what you can set up, see what you can do, see what you can meet, because everybody can't get up and move to LA, you know, but you definitely need to be willing to travel and willing to be there, because I feel like the face-to-face, you know, is the strongest.
Hands down. I got to a certain point where I don't even want to email you music. You know, people are quick to, email. Nah, man, I'm cool. I'm wasting my time at this point. You know, because there's a chance you'll listen to it based on, you know, who it is sending it to you. You may listen to it, but people have lives. People, I mean, think about your inbox. How many of you keep your inbox clean? Period. And you're not an executive working for a label. You know, when you're an executive, like your inbox stays full. You have stuff coming to you from left and right. So that in person, face to face, nothing's ever going to replace that. Period. Because people can connect with you. People can see this is a real person. Oh, the music's amazing, but this is a real person. We have some sort of connection. He wears the same shoes I wear. I mean, there's so many different things that can really happen. Like I had a meeting last week at Universal Publishing, and you know, I walked in, and this was my first time meeting her. She has some crazy shoes on, and I'm big on shoes, so I was just like, oh, yo, those are dope. You know, that's how the conversation started. So it just started with a certain type of energy, and it took a second before we even got to the business, because we were building some sort of personal rapport, and that was definitely my intention. You know, I just noticed that was the first thing that jumped out at me. You know, so now now it took that meeting that much further than let's just sit down and talk about business, cut and dry. Like, nah, you have to connect with people. You have to give people a reason to want to help you, because at the end of the day, they're doing something for you. You might have the greatest music in the world, but I mean, executives have music coming from every which way. There's a million dope producers out there. Really, there really are. So, you know, you just got to be on point, definitely.
Yeah, and that face-to-face and that self-investment, there's something about it that people just respect, you know, because, you know, you've got talent. People have talent. There are tons of people out here with talent, but work ethic is very impressive. I assume that you're from a West Indian background. correct? No? Well, you're from a West Indian city. So what I will say is, I'm pretty sure you know how hard people work.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I'm from Philly, it's a hard-working town. People respect work ethic, especially in this business. There are people who are amazingly talented, but they are terrible when it comes to work. They are terrible when it comes to consistency and things like that. So, you know, just being that person who, even if you didn't approach anybody, even if you didn't approach him with your music right away, you know, you built that rapport, and he just consistently saw you at things and saw you at these venues and saw you out and about, you know, being professional and just being there. You know, that would definitely put you in the forefront of these people's minds. I'll tell you a real quick story. Since 2008, I think I've seen DJ 2 every year, like twice a year, every year. So last year, he looks at me, he's like, "Don't I know you?" Now, I could have talked to him a long time ago, you know what I'm saying? But the fact that he always saw me, I was always consistent, we always were around each other, but I wasn't like, "Hey, you know, I'm so-and-so, this is what I do," you know, and got up in his space. Because, you know, sometimes you just got to wait your turn and wait your time and, you know, just kind of bide the time. But, you know, he became interested in what I had going on and who I was and what I was doing, you know, so be there, be consistent, you know, don't be afraid to get out. Because from an I-standard perspective, you know, tons of producers, tons of you guys. I mean, I probably listen to the 2,000 beats a week, easily, and that's probably, you know, low end. But it's about the guys who get out here or the ladies who get out here. Those are the people who I take seriously. Those are the guys who I will personally invest my time in, because I see that you have that work ethic. I've had friends that I worked with, and they were lazy, you know, and they didn't want to put forth the effort, and they just felt like they were that talented, you know. So work ethic, definitely.
I'm glad you touched on it, because work ethic and your consistency, I mean, that really truly determines you having a future in this business. It really does. You know, what you got to understand is that your competition is not these other producers here in the room with you. Your competition is the producers that are teaching these classes. You know, your Hit Boys, your you know, whoever you name, Kanye, like whatever producer you name, that's your competition. So your work ethic has to precede whatever they're doing, period. If you get deadlines, meet them. Always over-deliver, period. Your work ethic, I mean, we could have a whole nother conversation, a whole nother panel on just work ethic alone, because that's literally everything in this business. You can, you know, you'll see average, mediocre talent, whether it's an artist, whether it's a producer, who have an insane work ethic, and they're winning. Meanwhile, you have the craziest music that no one's heard just yet, and they may never hear it, because your work ethic is, you know, non-existent, or you're not consistent, you know. You have to show up every day, period. You got to go hard. There's so much competition in this business, period. So I'm glad you touched on that consistency and work ethic, man. That's everything.
But the one thing that I can tell you, and he can probably agree on this, is, you know, I don't do guarantees, but if you put the work in, it will pay off for you. And I can tell you that from experience and from watching other people who I've seen in this game and saw what their work ethic was like. Because a lot of people quit. You know, it gets tough, it gets rough. But, you know, I feel like when it's getting rough, that's when it's about to happen. You know what I'm saying? So, because it's not easy. This whole music thing, you know, it probably doesn't pay you right away. You know, you have to do other things in life. You got to handle other situations. You know, you can have families, children, girlfriends, boyfriends, whatever the case may be. And all of those things are going to push against what you're trying to do. You know, so you being the creative type, you know, that's what you want to do, but other people might not necessarily get it. But you have to keep that consistency and keep in mind that if I keep doing this, it could actually work. So self-belief is very important as well. You know, your motivation. Why do you get up every day to go in the lab and just continuously work to make yourself better? So got to keep that in mind, man. I watch, you know, S1. S1 is one of my prime examples of somebody who just worked and worked and worked and sacrificed and sacrificed and sacrificed. This man had a wife, 2 kids. You know, he was traveling with them, whole family. And I know it wasn't expensive. I mean, I know it was pretty expensive, you know, to pack your whole family up and go to Phoenix, pack your whole family up and go to Miami, pack your whole family up and go to LA, you know, but it paid off for him, you know. And his wife was like, dude, you might need to get a job, you know. And there was a point when that was the case, you know. There was a point when Cardiac was like, yo, I think I'm gonna quit, you know. And just when you get that extra push and you just keep banging it out, you know, it might happen for you. It just might. Have you had any experience as far as any point in your career when you were like, you know, I don't know if this is the lane?
It happens all the time, man. That's I think that's a part of the business, because the nature of this business, everything's you gotta wait. You just gotta hurry. You gotta hurry up and wait. You know what I'm saying? You gotta hurry up and get it in ASAP, and then you just gotta sit back and wait. And it's, I mean, I felt like this last week. Like, damn, what am I? You know, what is this all for? But I mean, I don't even think I could do anything else. You know what I'm saying? Like, I love music so much. I love the arts, entertainment, period. And that's what my passion is. So it's like, when you know what you're set to do, that's what you're gonna do, period, day in, day out. My, just even that, how you said about S1, like my producer, his name's Sermon, and you know, I've been working with him probably two years or so. And he, you know, done some stuff here and there, mixtape stuff, but nothing major. And he's a pop producer, pop producer. So ultimately, I signed him, got him signed with Mike Karen over at APG, top of the year. And just before that deal happened, he was just telling me he was at a point where he was just like, man, life's way too real right now. Like, I might have to quit. And you know, fast forward, like later we closed the deal in January. Fast forward now, we have Flo Rida's next single, and as of last week, we have Pitbull's next single. So I mean, these kind of things happen, you know, just when you're at that point where you feel like, I can't do this anymore. That's, you know, like you said, that's usually where a major breakthrough is about to happen. And I've heard that so many different times from so many different people. It's crazy, you know. This business is not for everybody. I can tell you that much. Like, you have to be a really strong, persistent, confident, driven person to really go through the bullshit that you have to encounter in this business. Period. You have to want it. You have to want it. You have to eat it, breathe it, sleep it, you know what I'm saying, day in, day out.
So what we're going to do now is, you know, take some questions, any questions you guys might have for Vakseen. Anybody?
Like you said, you manage too, right? So when you're looking for producers, what do you look for when you're managing? You're trying to find like new ones that already have some placements, or like what do you?
I don't care. I'm one of the few people that don't really care about placements. Period. I don't care about the politics of the business. I hate the politics. You know, before I got into the business, I'm a producer and I'm an artist. You know, so I'm a creative mind. I have that background. So to me, it's always first about having amazing music. So when I'm looking for somebody to manage, I'm looking for something that's life-changing, something that's going to make me drop every single thing I'm doing, literally, like, whoa, what's this? And I multitask. I'm always multitasking. So if I'm listening to music, you know, the right music will make you stop what you're doing. Hearing the right melodies, incredible melodies, will make you stop what you're doing and put your focus on this record. So, you know, not just amazing, but innovative. You know, everything that you're doing, everything you're creating as a producer has to be a little bit ahead of its time. The whole nature of the business, I mean, you're talking about your average 6 months, you know, for an album to drop. So your music still has to be relevant when it actually releases. So I'm looking for innovation. I'm looking for, most importantly, a cohesive sound, which a lot of producers don't understand. You know, a lot of producers will feel like, oh, well, I produce pop, I produce R&B, I produce rock, I produce country, I do all. I'm great. The only person that thinks that is other creators. That's the only people that respect that like that. On this business level, you need to have a cohesive sound, something that's unique enough to help you stand apart from the competition, but at the same time still commercially viable. And every track I hear, I know like, oh yeah, he did that. And it's crazy. You know what I'm saying? All the dynamics are there. You have great structure, incredible mixes, you know, incredible melodies, just all the dynamics, great effects. The drums really hit you in the face. Like all these things need to be there in place. And at the same time, I'm not caught up in the fact that you have to bring me the cake already iced with the slice cut out. I'm not caught up in that either, because if I see the potential in you, then I have no problem working with you and giving you just a little bit more development to get you to that point. All my guys that I manage now started out where I was just consulting for them, where, when I consult for somebody, I just shop the music, and technically that's my only job, but I'm just so much more involved with my team, very hands-on. So it's, just, you need to be that one. There's a million producers out here, and there's a million dope ones. It's much easier to find dope producers than dope writers, dope consistent writers. And consistency and work ethic definitely come into the picture with what I'm looking for to manage, period. Like everything comes into the picture, when making that consideration.
What was it like making the transition from being an artist producer into A&R management?
Well, initially when I started at Slip and Slide as an intern, I was still producing and still an artist, but I had come to an interesting period where I was kind of stopping the artistry and getting more focused on production, and I was doing that. But then something happened where the business career took off much quicker than I expected. And I always wanted to be in the business. Even when I was an artist, I handled all the business. Like I produced everything. I handled all our business. Like I just, was that one-stop shop. Everything, period. I wore all the hats. So I always wanted to get in the business, but like I said, the business my business career took off very quickly. And, there's always mixed feelings about it, because at this point, I do a different kind of production. I'm more in the directing and like, okay, you do this, oh, change this sound here. I'm more like that. Whereas before I had an MPC. So I have boards and I'm playing and doing every single thing myself. So it's there's mixed feelings, because next thing I know, it was like, well, damn, I haven't produced a track in a month. Oh, damn, it's been two months. And then next thing you know, I kind of transitioned to a full-on executive, and it's interesting if you don't know exactly what you want to do on your path, but that's the only thing that made it cool. I do know what I want to do on my path, and I'm still producing, just a different form or fashion, so.
For individuals that have like multiple talents, do you advise them to focus on one specific one at a time, kind of, or go ahead and shop the one-stop shop like you mentioned before? Because you don't want to be the guy, doing all these magic tricks.
Multiple talents like what?
Like say like I songwrite, I produce, and I'm an artist as well. So it's like, which one, like I know time is an important thing. You don't want to hear the whole shebang of what all they're doing. Do you advise them to focus on one specific thing, or if they do it all, shop it all?
Well, I think the ideal, like I personally said, the next person I sign, I need them to be 100%. I need them to not only produce, but write, and do them equally well. How likely that is to happen, it's out there, but it's kind of rare. What I'll say is do what you're best at doing, and be real with yourself. Because of course you're going to say, "No, I do them all well." No, do you really do them all well? What do other people say? What do some professionals say? That's what you have to do, and you absolutely want to choose what you're best at. Put your focus on that, because you're going to be spreading yourself thin. Most people, that's a common trend with creatives. We tend to spread ourselves thin. We'll try to do a lot, and some people are blessed with one talent. That's all they do, and they can focus on that. But some of us were blessed with more than one talent. So it's like, how do I focus? How do I put? You have to know your strengths and be honest with yourself. You know what I'm saying?
Real quick, man, clap it up for Vakseen, man. Understand that this gentleman has been very instrumental in Istandard, and I'm not sure if Sis went through it or not, but a couple years back, he judged one of our shows in Miami when he was living in Miami, and he found a production team that was in our showcase that actually even won the show. I think they placed like third or something, right? And Vakseen started a relationship with these guys. He ended up signed to his management company and production company, and he got their first placement with Rick Ross through Vakseen. So Vakseen has been a huge influence on what we do. We definitely appreciate him for his time. Just a couple things real quick. Right after this class, just so you know, classroom A, we're going to have the Justice League's management. My man Ivan Rivera is going to be talking about management and whatnot. In this classroom, Rhythm J is going to be discussing and talking about Lifted, who did Kanye's Mercy. He'll be in here discussing his first placement and some things you guys might want to be aware of. We're doing the last demo for Ableton downstairs in the theater. The next set of listening sessions is going to be with Ilman. It's going to be downstairs. So I would say get down there no later than 2 o'clock to do that if you're in that second set of producers. And that's about it, man. Get off my man Sis too, man.
This is a pivotal moment. We have to ask you something. We're all trying to obtain some type of knowledge. What are the things that entice you personally for an artist? Because I read a lot of like interviews and watch like a lot of like interviews to try to obtain that necessary knowledge from the actual professionals. And the one I looked at was Meek Mill. He was like, yeah, I was getting 30 racks, blah blah blah, before Rick Ross signed me. Like, is your own personal buzz big as an artist to you?
First of all, that's why.
Over talent. I mean, I'm just
I'll tell you that's why.
Oh, word? Okay, I'm just feeling what he said, but like, are you looking for people that already got their buzz or talent? Which one matters to you most?
You're talking about rappers now, artists?
Or just period, like the person that has all that buzz and has all the love in his hometown versus the dude that's actually pretty dope, but he may not be as known as a Mr. Popularity Contest winner.
You know, there's mixed feelings about that question because if you're dope, it doesn't matter that you're dope. If nobody knows it, doesn't matter. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's the whole nature of what we're doing. If you're an artist, you're supposed to be sharing your gift. And in this day and age, 2013, 2014, as an independent talent artist, your foundation is your following, your fan base. That's essential. That's the only thing that matters. Whether you want a deal or not, that's the only thing that matters. You know what I'm saying? Period. So to say it doesn't matter, like, I can't tell you it doesn't matter. It definitely matters. Not to mention this is a business. So my ideal situation is to sign you because I see that we can get some money together at the end of the day. Yeah, I mean, this is a music business, period. If you're not doing it to make a living out of it, then it's a hobby. You know what I'm saying? Period. So your foundation, it absolutely matters. It absolutely matters. Like, that's the main focus. When I'm in consultations daily with artists, you know, most of them say my goal is to be signed to a major label. And I ask you, are you trying to stay independent or you want to sign to a label? Most people, I want to sign to a label. Okay, well, guess what? You have to be a successful independent. So you have to move like you didn't even want a deal, period. You have to
By the time you do that, you won't even want a deal.
Exactly. Because you're keeping your money, you're eating.
All right. Yeah, don't watch artist interviews.
They lying? They be lying?
You gotta understand that this is the entertainment business. Smoke and mirrors.
Smoke and mirrors.
Everything is smoke and mirrors. It's all about the illusion. It's all about the allure of, oh, this is what you want to do. Like, you never see the hard work that goes in. You never see the cars that get rented or the girls that get paid to be in the video. Like, you don't see these things because it's all about the image. Marketing is everything. That's one of the first things I learned in this business. Like, damn, marketing really is everything in entertainment. If something happened crazy, you best believe it was damn near planned. From, you know, when Chris Brown fell out back a few years with the BET Awards, like, and that resurrected his career, you think that was by chance? And that's just one example, you know what I'm saying? But nothing happens by chance in this business. There's too much money on the line for stuff to happen by chance. Period.
Okay. Question? Take one more question.
No, I was going to ask him, how do you feel like now that it's so many producers out and artists don't want to pay and labels don't want to pay, like, how do you handle stuff like that?
I mean, really, you have to deliver something that you kind of force them to pay. You know, you have to know your worth, and you can't give everything away. You know, you have to demand your respect in life. You know, I'm sure you know that. So, you know, that's really it. I mean, there's going to be people that if they can get tracks off you all day for free, that's what they're going to do. Period. You have to demand your worth, demand your value, build your stock. You know, when you're the hottest producer in the streets, they don't have any choice but to come see you and to come pay you and cut that check because they know, like, oh, I can't get any tracks otherwise. You know, but if you're not that hottest producer, then go to somebody else. They have somebody in the basement right now creating tracks that sound just like yours. You know what I'm saying?
I got a question. How'd you go from intern to A&R in a month?
My work ethic,
There you go.
my consistency.
There you go. I thought somebody got fired. No, seriously, that's pretty impressive because I mean, you know, I started out in this game as an artist, and I was a pretty good artist, but I kind of fell into the business side myself, and it was weird because I didn't want to do that, you know, or I didn't know that I did want to do it, and it just kind of happened. So, you know, open eyes, open ears, especially if you got multiple talents. Just, you know, go with what's your strongest and keep your ears open, keep your eyes open, and the things that happen. Just work hard, man. Just work hard every day, and something will happen. And just be open to every possible opportunity that's out there.
And that, I understand it doesn't happen overnight. It does not happen overnight. Like
See how old 2 Chainz is?
Huh?
You see how old 2 Chainz is?
I mean, most rappers are, you know,
Yeah.
mid-30s or so that are winning. It doesn't happen overnight. I mean, I tell the story all the time. Like even with Ross, I started at Slip and Slide October 05. We dropped Hustlin' December 05. Last year was probably really one of the first years where you'd be like, nah, Ross was everywhere. He was killing the game. He's one of those artists that you expect a certain thing from, you know, upper echelon, so to speak. That's, you know, 6, 7 years later. He was signed to the label for 6 years prior to Hustlin' even dropping. Not to mention he was signed to Swag House before Slip and Slide. So this point being, it doesn't happen overnight. You're not gonna find any example where it happened for somebody overnight. Nobody. We always feel like there's a rush to get to that finish line. It's just about being the best possible, working on you, building you, taking you to that next level, evolving, being consistent, working hard. Trust me, it will happen. It will fall in line. But understand as well, it's not all about placements. Let me get this in before we even wrap. It's not all about placements. Personally, I would say, don't worry about placements. You know, it might be a different conversation, but placements is not where it's at, man. If you can visualize a rat chasing cheese on a stick, like that's what this placement game is. Periods. Coming to you from an executive. You know what I'm saying? Like that's what this placement game is. Where I'm at, breaking artists. That's what provides longevity. That's what creates careers for a producer.
Exactly.
Breaking artists. You know, get into licensing. License your music. It's such a lucrative avenue. You know, just understand there's more than one lane. Most producers only think about placements like that's the move. Like that's so overrated. Very, very overrated. And it's not about, even if you only want to focus on placements, those A-listers are pretty much out. Like you got to build with the future. You're the future. Build with the future. The artists that have a nice little buzz. Maybe they just got signed, but they're still open to working with younger producers because they're still trying to get their sound down packed. So, you know, just a few additional notes that I definitely feel are essential.
You got one last question in the back?
So, if we get to the point where we could actually send some music to an A&R, would you recommend, you know, if they're looking for beats and we do have an artist we're breaking in that we believe in, would it be better to shoot the artist at once or wait a second and build the relationship with the A&R before we show an artist?
Build a relationship. You don't want to overwhelm anybody with some long-ass book email. Like I would, like, yeah, I'm not reading that. It's just not happening. I'm not reading a book email. And it happens. It definitely happens. You know, you gotta, I know you're eager because it's like, I got an open door. This is my chance. That chance is not going anywhere. You have to make sure that you keep that relationship open. Make sure you keep that door open. You being over eager, you can definitely close that door. Just imagine if you meet a girl and you go all in, you're gonna look real thirsty. And you probably won't get none. You know what I'm saying? Like that's I always hold the business parallel to relationships because it's so parallel in so many aspects.
But you could definitely work them in slowly. Like if they do hooks or whatever, you know, I don't know if it's a singer or an artist, but whatever the case may be, you know, if you're sending a couple tracks, you know, and they did some really good hooks, just make sure they're really good, but just work them in. And you don't have to bring it up. They're going to ask you.
That's a great angle because I presented so many records and they're like, yo, who's the artist? Like that's the first thing exec will ask you, and there's nothing even else that they ask you after that. It's just like, yo, who's the artist? And and then you have an opportunity. You know what I'm saying? You have an opportunity to get people familiar with your artist.
But it's always better when they ask you, you know, and that's real big. Like, you kind of want to bait them, you know, into being interested. All right, well, everybody give it up for Vakseen.